Welcome to the K9s for Veterans podcast, Operation Honor. Join us on this amazing journey. Hosted by Michael Tellerino, your guide through these inspiring stories along with special co-host Kenny Avery. In this podcast, we will share personal stories and highlight impactful programs that empower our veterans. Discover the impact that service dogs have in the lives of veterans. Tune in to witness heartfelt moments and transformational journeys. Get ready to connect, learn, and be inspired by our veterans' stories. Operation Honor is here to uplift and empower. Let's begin this important mission together.
Hello, and thanks for joining me tonight. My name is Mike Tellerino. I am your host for this evening. Tonight I've got Bill Burns with me, Dan Miller, Hugo, and Kenny Avery. Good morning, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
We're here tonight to talk about the Forgotten Warrior Memorial and the importance of the memorial to the families of these fallen veterans. So, I can't stress how important it is that as a community, we pull together to come out to show these families that we understand their loss and that we're behind them and that respect for their child, that they won't be forgotten. And that's why they're added on the memorial. So I'm going to start out with Dan Miller because I know he's having technical issues. So just in case we lose him, Dan, why don't you start out by telling us you've lost how many veterans to PTSD suicide? You were just telling me that the other night.
Michael, 31.
31 veterans.
Yeah.
Dan, how important is it, in your opinion, to these families when we add their child's name to that memorial in Shanahan State Park?
I think you can't even put the importance into words. I think it's because a lot of times these guys and these girls don't get any kind of services through the military. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But having the memorial is a place where, that warrior can be put in stone, that name can be etched, and it's there forever. And it gives that family an opportunity to have a place to come to, or at least a place they know that their loved one's name is etched in stone forever. And that person can be recognized as the warrior that they are. They serve their countries proudly, and they be treated as such.
And they need to be honored for their service to our country.
Absolutely.
Bill Burns, your son was, I think, the first name added to the memorial.
Yes, to the Army Stone.
To the Army Memorial.
Yeah, we lost him in 2016 to PTSD.
Tell the viewers what it meant to you to have your son's name added to that memorial.
Well, it definitely was a heartfelt moment when we were there and we got to see his name displayed at the memorial. For myself, my wife, and our family, it kind of brought closure to the full circle of the tragedy and allowed us to show that, he was respected for his service to his country, right. Serving in the Army in Iraq, helping to fight that war, and then coming home to deal with his demons, and then unfortunately losing his battle to post-traumatic stress. But it certainly is an honor to have his name there and to go down and see the memorial, and it makes the family find closure to something that is tragic, and it brings us a heartfelt warmth knowing that he'll never be forgotten, and his name was etched in stone forever. So it's a huge importance to the families and the relatives, and they definitely need to be honored, along with all our veterans that support us as well, too. I mean, we got a great team that basically heads up this whole memorial and K9s for Veterans, and without all our great volunteers and without all our military members that we have on our staff as well, they need to be honored just as well. But, hopefully we don't add more names, but unfortunately we continue to do that. But it brings a lot of pride to the families once they see their son or their daughter's name unveiled at the memorial. So that's really what it means to us. It brings closure.
Bill, September 20th, we're having a ceremony to honor these fallen veterans and hopefully bring their families some closure. We are adding, and it hurts me to even say this number, we're adding 13 names to that memorial. 13 families has lost a child due to their PTSD. And actually, it's the first female veteran that we're adding to the memorial. She's a Navy veteran, a young girl. When I talk to these families and they tell me the stories of their loss, it just breaks my heart. It really does. I can't imagine what these families go through. And like Dan said, there's really nothing for these families when a veteran commits suicide. Even we've got an active duty veteran being placed on the memorial on September 20th. So, and they all tell me the same thing, that they never thought anybody would recognize their child for their service to our country. So, we can't do anything for the veterans that we're honoring on the memorial, but hopefully we could help these families with some closure. Hugo, you work at Arlington National Cemetery.
Correct.
You see this every day. You deal with these families.
Yes.
I mean, it's got to be a heartbreaking job. It really does. But I'm sure you enjoy it because you get to help these families. Not that you enjoy doing what you're doing, but you enjoy the part of being able to help these families get through a really rough time. Tell us about what it's like to do a service with them.
Yeah. So, as a Marine veteran, I mean, I feel it's an honor to be there for the families, to help serve our veterans and their families. Everyone grieves differently. And, unfortunately, I see a lot of veterans come in there that, of all ages, all war periods, World War II, or Iraq, and all those various war periods. But, the joy in it for me is being able to be there for those families, to help them through what I can on my end. Obviously at that point, they just want to make sure the service goes well, that the honors are done. That's the most moving part for the veterans' families, is the honors, the military going out there, presenting the flag. But there's times where, I get hugs from the parents or whoever is the next of kin because of the honor that is given to their loved one at the cemetery.
Up until we built this memorial in Shanahan State Park,
Mm-hmm.
there was nothing for our fallen veterans who lost that battle to PTSD. In fact, our memorial is the only memorial anywhere in the United States of its size and stature. We're proud of that.
Yes.
We need to do more for our veterans that take that final step and commit suicide. We're not doing enough for them. We're really not. And when we built this memorial, it was to honor the families, to show them that people do care. And that's why it's so important that we have the public come out to show these families that, yes, we understand your loss. I'd love to see hundreds and hundreds of people out there just watching the ceremony and witnessing how grateful these families are that somebody finally acknowledges their loss. Kenny Avery, you've been a huge part of the agenda for this memorial, making sure that it runs right for these families, and we do everything as proper as we can to honor these veterans. Kenneth, tell us about.
I do a lot of work behind and before I do a lot of the prep work and everything. And to make sure that everything is going to run perfectly. And for me, it's one of the hardest things that I've ever done in my entire life. Kind of struggle with it a little because I don't know. I can't relate to the families like you, Bill, and Dan. But I want to make sure that everything is perfect. I want everything just the way it should be for them. And you know, I love when you look at them and they get that little bit of closure and everything that we do for the families. And that's what makes me so proud of what I do and just to make them a little bit more happy.
You know, our ceremony, we start out, it's a full-blown ceremony. It really is. We have dual bagpipe players. We have dual taps players. We have bagpipe players. We do a blessing for the memorial, a blessing for the veterans. We do whatever we can to honor these families. We call the families up one at a time to go and remove the tape from their son's name. So it's displayed for the first time in public. They walk around, they place a rose in front of the memorial. They walk back, have a seat. At the end of the ceremony, we call the families up and we present them with a flag with their son or daughter's name on it. I mean, it's so heartwarming to see the expression on their face that somebody really does care. That's why, general public, if you're out there listening, you need to come out to the ceremony September 20th and honor these families. Please show these families that you care, that their son or daughter's death means something. It's at Shanahan State Park, September 20th, 1 p.m. I mean, please come out and
You know,
these
just-
families.
just because they lost their battle doesn't mean that they're not heroes. They served our country. And because of them, you know, we live in the country that we live in. And all of us know the military, but that's what it's all about. People need to come out and talk and talk to these families, you know, and see the emotions on their families. And it just helps them so many ways. And that's the beauty part about what we do.
You know, when I give my ending speech, my takeaway message is if you leave here with nothing else today, leave here knowing that these names and these veterans that we're adding to the memorial, they are true heroes and they paid the ultimate price in service to our country for our freedom. So again, that's what this ceremony is all about, to honor these brave fallen veterans and also to honor these families that somebody cares about their loss.
Absolutely.
Bill,
Yeah.
you know, getting back to your son, I remember when I first met you, you know, and we were talking about the memorial. You've been with me from day one. You're you guys are all directors on the memorial, but Bill, you are one of the first ones, the first one that came up to the memorial and wanted to be a part of it. You wanted to do something, not only to help with your loss, but you told me you wanted to help with these other families and their loss.
Yes, definitely helping become part of one of the founding members, and then helping to actually break ground and start to build and construct a memorial was an honor. It was something I looked at not just doing for my son, but for all the veterans that made their sacrifice. And I think that's what it's all about when you're talking about bringing the public out there and getting the public involved. People need to show their support, not just for the veterans that we lost to PTSD. You always need the general public always needs to support veterans. And we have a great team of veterans in our group here as well. And I thank them for their service as well. But they know what it's like, I mean, to sacrifice it all and hang it all out there. But at the end of the day, what means the most is to see the people that come out and support the families and to show that you have pride in your veteran community and the memorial. That would definitely bring smiles to families, you know, knowing that there's other people that are there, not just the people that have to be there to honor their families or the support staff that's always there, but it means the world to everybody to see that people, our citizens, want to support our veterans, not just the fallen, but the ones that still serve and support us. That's most important.
What would you, Bill, what would you say to the people that are watching about coming out to support these families? What can we do to get more people to come out and show their support?
Well, I know that some people probably think it's more like the ceremony is more like it's not a funeral. It's an honor ceremony, and to etch their name in the stone of a Forgotten Warrior Memorial, which means they'll never be forgotten. So if you have a son or a daughter and something tragic happened to them, you wouldn't want them to be forgotten. So I would suggest that the general public would come out and support our memorial and show your support for the veteran community and come down and support the families that are grieving their loss. But by showing that support, it shows strength and unity, which is what this country was founded on, strength and unity. So we need families to come in and participate and help us show support for everyone there.
It's so important to these families. It really is. At the end of the ceremony, I can't tell you how many families come up to me, and I don't want to sound redundant, but this is how important it is to them. They come up to me and tell me, I never, ever thought anyone was ever going to recognize my loss. Nobody. You know, when a veteran commits suicide, it's horrific. These families are left with a lot of unanswered questions. They really are. You know, it's an agonizing thing for them. Hopefully, like we all said, this will bring some closure to these families, just to let them know that there are people that understand their loss and support them, you know, during the time of struggles with dealing with the loss of their child. I just find it hard to believe that, you know, we're not doing more for our veterans with PTSD. We really need to be doing more. You know, and I think the memorial raises awareness, and it's so important to raise awareness of what these veterans are struggling with, and then the end result if they don't get the help they need. Okay.
Well, that's where the problem lies. These young men, women, no matter their age, they need more help. We need more people out there to understand that. Okay, I'm not going to dog out the VA, but you know, their hands are kind of tied. We need to let these young men and women get private practice. There needs to be better resources for them to help them than just one little tiny sector of in the world. You know, it's just not fair to them.
You know, again, I just want to stress the importance that we get as many of the citizens that come out there and show their support to these families. It's really important. You know, again, the ceremony is September 20th, 1 p.m., Shanahan State Park, Shanahan, Illinois. Please, if you have the opportunity to come out and pay some respect to these families, please do. It means so much to them. It really does. Guys, I want to thank you so much for helping what each and every one of you have your own particular little niche in making this memorial what it is and what it means to these families. So I want to thank each and every one of you for your continued support and all you do to support these families and the memorial. So God bless you and help spread the word that
you got it.
Give these veterans more help and to come out and share and show these families that we do care.
Absolutely.
It's definitely an honor.
It is an honor.
You know, like I said, September 20th, we're adding 13 names. 13. You know, 22 veterans a day are taking their life. 22. And that, Dan will tell you, that number's low. But no, Dan, you know, we'll never get away from 22 a day because it's too, I don't know, it's just too associated with PTSD. They're never going to say 38 veterans a day.
Can I say something, Michael?
Please.
Yeah, you know, I just want to put this out there to everyone that's listening, and you know, if you're listening, you hear this, maybe you tell someone else. You know, the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq went on for 20 years. The war in Vietnam went on forever. Korea was fairly short, but it was a war, regardless of whether people say it was a police action or whatever. But war is war, as simple as that. People come back, and they're different from when they left. And you know, it's been realized now that a lot of veterans come back from Afghanistan, Iraq, and people think, oh, they came back, the war's over for them. Well, no, there's a different war that's going on, and that war is continuous, and that war is in the shadows, and that war doesn't like to be talked about, and that war is the war against post-traumatic stress. And there's thousands and thousands of men and women that are fighting it every day. And that 22 a day that the VA come up with, the DOD came up with, that's just a number. Some days there's more, some days there's less, but one is too many. And and we're fighting on a daily basis. The war is going on, and we're not winning it. And
No,
if we were winning it, there would be no suicide by PTS. But sadly, there is, and the VA's battling, the DOD, you know, the guys that are in the trenches with their buddies that are just calling them and doing buddy checks. Everybody's trying to fight and do the best they can to stop it. And it's not just veterans; it's guys that were, you know, our first responders that were veterans. I mean, it's just so involved with so many different avenues of folks that serve their countries in different ways, or serve their country in different ways, but this war that is just continuing, and what we're doing on our end is just so vitally important. And you talk about people coming out. I cannot tell you, every family member I've ever spoken to at every memorial I've ever been to at the Forgotten Warrior Memorial, every time I go out there and we do a ceremony, the families say, you know, I'm just so flattered that people come out. And the more people that come out there, it shows more support. It shows more support just for those that we're putting on that day, but for the 70 plus names that are already on those pillars. It's showing support for those that have already passed and already been put up there, and it's showing support for everybody that's fighting right now to not put on that wall.
Right.
It's just so vitally important that people come out and just take a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour to come out, just show support for those men and women that they've given their all. They stepped up, they raised their hands, they went forward and did things that a lot of people would never do. It's the least we can do as a society to recognize.
So true. So true.
Bill, I go to that memorial sometimes just to walk around, and I look at it, those names on that memorial. And again, as a parent, I don't think I'll ever understand what it's like to lose a child.
No.
And I hope I never find out, to be honest with you. So, you know, you put your heart and soul into this memorial from day one. When we broke ground, you were there. When we put those foundations in, you were there. You've seen this memorial go from foundations to 8-foot pillars, everything, the lighting, the pavers, thanks to Dan Ritchie, a good friend of yours, for doing what he did for us. I mean, so thank you. Hugo, thank you for what you do for our veterans at Arlington. It's amazing what you do for those families. you give them comfort in the time that they're going through a rough time.
Yep.
Dan Miller, thank you for your service and all you do for K9, the families you help, the service to our country. Kenny Avery, I can't say enough about you for all the support you give me and K9. You are truly my right hand guy when it comes to things needed to get done. You're the one I go to. So thank you all for being such a huge part of this memorial. And let's together spread this word and get more people to come out and honor these families.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Guys, thank you. Have a blessed night. And thank you for all you're doing for this memorial.